the Time Patroller, the Galactic Patrolman, Nappa's favorite playtime partner, and the man who tells you that you should like and subscribe. The protagonist of Xenoverse 2 is absurdly powerful and slept on in my opinion. While Xenogoku has only gotten more mainstream in the scaling community, the Time Patroller who scales above him is often not discussed. But for this video to be coherent, we must first discuss cosmology within the Dragon Ball verse. Xenoverse games revolve around the Time Patroller, a group of timeline patrolling space cops that stop dangerous timelines that would eventually threaten the multiverse. Each timeline contains around 12 universes that are at least as big as our known universe, and as that is what is present in the Prime timeline. This is important to establish because even canon characters like Xeno have destroyed a timeline, which in Dragon Ball logic is akin to destroying 12 universes. While the power scale of the Dragon Ball universe is typically centered around planetary threats that may destroy Earth, the Xenoverse is focused with defending the entire Dragon Ball verse. Threats that may transcend one reality and go around destroying all others. Broly or Kid Buu may destroy quadrants of the universe, while only Xeno from the Prime timeline and the Xenoverse characters are involved in the birth and death of entire timelines. Demigra, the main villain of Xenoverse 1, who reappears in Xenoverse 2's DLC, used his magic to increase his power and unlock his giant demon god form while being sealed outside of time for an eternity by the Supreme Kai, meaning that the Supreme Kai of Time can BFR you to an alternate dimension outside of space-time, but she sends the Time Patroller to actually handle threats, showing his strength. The Supreme Kai of Time has also been able to merge timelines together, which, given that a timeline contains around 12 universes, makes this a multiversal feat. And the Xenoverse 1 and 2 Time Patrollers both scale above her, but that's not good. This also means that Demigra is at least on par with Buu Saga tier characters who can use their sheer power to open up dimensional portals before he is even on screen. Demigra, like Towa and Mira, holds the power to brainwash people and boost their power, with seemingly no limit to who he can brainwash. In the story mode, Beerus is taken under the mind control of Demigra and is said that he would destroy the entire universe if he wasn't stopped, which he is by the Xenoverse 1 Time Patroller. After taking control of literal gods and ascending to his demonic final form, Demigra is finally defeated at the hands of either Xenogoku or the Time Patroller, after receiving a power of friendship like Amp from the different people that they have trained with along the way, making the Xenoverse 1 Time Patroller lowballed Universal Plus even if Demigra didn't get any stronger between his escape and the final fight, which he definitely did. This final fight also takes place in between different timelines, a black void with no space or time, meaning that if you took the speed formula into account, where speed equals distance divided by time, in this case, time would be 0, and the Time Patroller from Xenoverse 1 and Demigra would essentially have infinite speed. This could also be the case considering that the Time Patroller has mastered Goku's instant transmission and can even warp while attacking like Goku has done. Speaking of Goku, let's discuss one of the Time Patroller's strongest mentors. Xenogoku is essentially the version of Goku that works for the Time Patrol, trains with your character, and has all of his crazy abilities that everyone discusses, as he is essentially Dragon Ball Super Goku with awareness of the Dragon Ball Z movies, Dragon Ball GT, the Demon Realm, and alternate timelines with empowered threats like Mira, Fu, and Demigra. He is possibly implied to be the same Xenogoku seen in the Dragon Ball Heroes material, as he also works with the Time Patrol and has seen many of the same events, as well as trained with Whis and experienced the events of Battle of Gods, either in his own timeline or another. In Dragon Ball Heroes, he keeps up with multiple Dark Dragon Ball infused opponents, and the Dark Dragon Balls by themselves individually reach immeasurable speeds in order to spread themselves out through different timelines. Xenogoku in his other appearances also beats an even stronger Demigra that reaches higher transformations, while Goku himself is in his base form. This version of Demigra was threatening to destroy the real world that the players of Dragon Ball Heroes lived in, and was aware of the Dragon Ball verse as fiction in the eyes of them, making him at least multiversal. If Xenogoku scales to this, then by further extrapolation, so does the Xenoverse 2 Time Patroller, as they regularly keep up with one another during training or fighting side by side. However, with Beerus stating at the end of Xenoverse 2 that in a fight to see who the strongest is, that Goku needs to sit it out and let the Xenoverse 1 and 2 Patrollers decide who is strongest, it is implied that the Time Patroller is even stronger than the strength Goku has obtained while being outside of the regular timeline. Now, while it isn't exactly concrete whether or not this Goku is or is not the same one from Dragon Ball Heroes, we know in terms of strength and speed, he scales far above anything we've seen in Super, as he can keep up with beings like Goku Black, Fuse Zamasu, and Jiren while he's in base form via the Infinite History DLC and Parallel Quests. Every impressive feat you've seen in Dragon Ball Super and Xenoverse Goku could easily replicate and more while in base. It's also important to establish that the versions of characters from Dragon Ball that you encounter in the Xenoverse story mode, cutscenes, mentor missions, and parallel quests scale massively above normal Dragon Ball Super timeline characters because in every mission, the villain has been amped with Demon Realm energy. An amp that can take a low-class Saiyan like Bardock from being unable to go Super Saiyan to being able to go Super Saiyan 3 and win against an android with multiple lifetimes worth of battle experience and stolen energy. In almost every mission, it is portrayed as a guaranteed loss without the help of the Time Patroller, as no one from the original timeline would have the power to deal with these time-displaced or magically strengthened opponents. It is also important to note that in the Xenoverse 2 story mode, there is one point where the Masked Saiyan Bardock is watching the end of the Buu saga, and he sees the Time Patroller, and the Time Patroller sees him, and he begins to run away and tries to transport himself to another point in time, in which the Time Patroller tries to grab a hold of him, but does not actually make contact, but still does properly follow him through time, making this an infinite speed feat, potentially, possibly irrelevant, however you want to do your speed scaling. What we do know is that if this was done truly through speed and not through, time travel technology like every other instance of time travel in the game, as there is not a time sphere with the clock effect around the patroller before or after this cutscene, implying that yes, it was done through raw speed alone. Now, up until this point, we've been discussing the cosmology of the verse and the story of Xenoverse 1 to properly get the context out of the way before we get the on-screen feats and statements for the Xenoverse 2 time controller. As Xenoverse 2 was a sequel that reused a lot of content from the first game, the Xenoverse 2 Time Patroller is capable of every ability that the Xenoverse 1 Patroller is, has every piece of equipment that they have, and now with the DLC, has literally experienced the same events via time travel, meaning that the Xenoverse 2 Time Patroller casually relives the dimension-shattering, universe-busting power of the Xenoverse 2 final battle as a training exercise. Xenoverse 1 came out at a time before we even had Dragon Ball Super, so it couldn't properly utilize its characters and scaling for much. However, Xenoverse 2 shows us that the Time Patroller can not only still go one-on-one with Beerus or Whis, now knowing more of their power thanks to Dragon Ball Super, but can also run a gauntlet of Goku and Vegeta in all of their forms up to Super Saiyan Blue, finishing the fight with both Vegito and Gogeta Blue. And the Time Patroller still came out on top. And these are just in parallel quests. Basically the game's side missions that serve as smaller threats around the multiverse that your character deals with sometime outside of the main story. In the main stories of Xenoverse 2, the Time Patroller ends up beating a Demon Realm enhanced version of Goku Black and Monster Fuse Zamasu that was capable of spreading himself throughout multiple timelines even before the Demon Realm end, making the Time Patroller low multiversal for being able to defeat him at least, as his strength had already allowed him to escape the destroyed future timeline and started to even spread in the anime with no demon amp. In parallel quests, Time Patroller also throws hands with a post-Broly movie Goku and Vegeta, and easily keeps up with even Ultra Instinct and Super Saiyan Blue Evolution. As well as through both tournaments and Crystal Raid time rifts, the Xenoverse 2 Time Patroller has also fought other patrollers just as strong as themselves, as well as literal evil doppelgangers of themselves, and still won, showing that the Time Patroller can either grow their power level during a fight similar to Broly, or that their latent power of friendship amp that they use in both the secret ending of Xenoverse 1 and 2 really does just give them an edge even when they're in a scenario with equal stats in an area outside of time. Now, obviously, the Xenoverse 2 Time Patroller is customized by the player, meaning that there is a plethora of usable skills and equipment at their disposal, and even their species may give them different perks. The Patroller can wield Trunks or Tapion swords and different moves, and also wears the Z-Sword that the Elder Kai was sealed in on his back. They also use the infinitely extending power pole in various moves, as well as the flying nimbus, meaning that they would have access to flight even if they were completely drained of energy by their opponent. Regardless of species, the Time Patroller can still achieve all the same feats that they achieve throughout the story mode and through the parallel quests, and can use most of the same moves as long as, they don't rely on stretchy biology like the Majins or the Mechans. Such moves that every race could do would be the Dancing Para, which forces all nearby opponents to dance. There's also Secret Poison, which allows you to poison even God-level opponents like Universe 6R Goku. It should also be noted that the Patroller has a lot of stats effects that they can induce on their opponents besides poison, such as sleep, stun, heavy breathing, blindness, or completely seal your transformations and make you unable to ascend. And they can also make themselves immune to these same status effects by simply striking a pose they learned from the Ginyu Force. They can also warp space-time and create wormholes with Super Buu's Dimension Cannon, create an aura of Hakai energy based on Toppo's form that he took in the Tournament of Power that can destroy anything it touches without proper resistance. The move Hyper Drain is also available to them, which allows the Patroller to grab an enemy and absorb their ki and stamina into the user. This can be used on an enemy of any similar height in the game by any race, so if you even get too close to this guy, he is stealing your power with his bare hands. Not to mention, he can also access Android 17's Energy Dome attacks that can absorb enemy ki, giving him an almost untouchable defense in the right situation. They've also learned Deborah's Stone Spit, so they can turn an opponent into a statue. They also have access to moves that infuse ki with natural elements such as fire or wind, as well as moves like Absolute Zero that can completely freeze opponents solid. However, if the player is a Saiyan, they can also achieve all Saiyan forms 1 through 3, God, Blue, and Blue Evolution. Frieza race players have access to the Golden form, Namekians can turn giant, and Majins can purify themselves and go into a muscular form like Kid Buu, but would logically also be able to absorb their opponents as well in a fight, which would be a massive amp to their power. All of these forms can be combined with Kaioken, up to times 20 in-game, but could be higher in an actual fight. The Time Patroller has also had their potential unlocked by both Kamiguru and the Elder Kai, similar to Child and Blue Saga Gohan, so consider that 2 more massive amps in power. So to recap, the Time Patroller could be any of the major Dragon Ball races, has nearly every key ability in the Dragon Ball verse available to them, has achieved almost every power-up that Goku and Gohan have achieved up until Dragon Ball Super, and far outscales multiversal threats that would make Prime Timeline Xeno shit his pants, and can on a whim multiply their power by combining Kaioken times 20 with either their base form or their strongest transformation. Now let's acknowledge the thumbnail to this video. Gohan Beast is a monster, outscaling the Gammas, which were programmed to be on par with post-Moro Goku and Vegeta, and him and Orange Piccolo's might were combined in order to beat Cell Max, who if perfected would have gone on to defeat Broly. This confidently puts Gohan Beast as one of the top tiers of the Dragon Ball Super verse right now, as even a weaker Broly with less training than he has currently needed the fusion of a post-Tournament of Power Goku and Vegeta to take down. And considering how much of a universal threat foes like Kid Buu were with way less power, it is easy to bring Gohan Beast to Universal Plus for him defeating Cell Max. Sadly though, he just doesn't have the feats yet to compete with the Time Patroller. If the Crack of Time truly has no space or time like the games imply, and it would take infinite speed to move in that space, then the Time Patroller would be able to speed blitz Gohan Beast, turn him to stone, absorb him, or Hakai him, ending the fight however he saw fit. Thank you for tuning into this video. I want to do more power scaling videos this year, so comment characters down below if you want me to scale. I'm pretty well versed when it comes to Dragon Ball, Naruto, JoJo's. So just let me know what you want me to talk about, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more. Thank you.